Good morning, everybody. Testing 1, 2, 3. I hope you are all doing incredibly well, and I've managed to get my scene back. Good morning. I hope you're all doing incredibly well. Sorry, my phone just rang then. I hope you're all doing incredibly well. My name is Mike. This is Crypto Warehouse, and before we begin, I am off to the Christmas party straight after this at midday. So I am all dressed for the Christmas party. And we're going to finish on time because I've got to be somewhere at 12:30 and it's already 11 o'clock. But before we begin, there are 2 birthday wishes. Kishan, I think on Tuesday, turned 21 again. I know. He doesn't look it, but Kishan is actually 21 again. And a very special birthday wish for Marco's youngest, Bia. And I hope I've pronounced that correctly, Bea. I hope you have a great day, and I hope your dad spoils you rotten. Now, we have a lot to get through. Even though the show is going to be done in an hour, it's always done in an hour because that's how professional we are. Even when times are tough, we still manage to get through what we're going to talk about in an hour. Now, I have the agenda on a tweet that I put out yesterday. We're going to bring that up, but very quickly, the Bitcoin bottom, Saylor dealing with Morgan Stanley. We're going to talk about keeping it simple Ethereum, and I've got my own opinion on that. We're going to talk about Jito going back into America. We're going to talk about the XRP drop. We're going to talk about hype out. And then we're going to talk about the Binance strategy for America. All of that and some X-Files and, of course, the charts. That's what we're going to start with today. And remember, this is a two-way stream. I can see chat, I can see Solo Sky is there, Mags is there, Hidden is there, KB is there. If you are in chat, say hello. I know these are rough times, okay? I'm fully aware of that. These are rough times. But smash the like button, say hello, and maybe we'll get through this together. Now, I hope you like what I've done with the place. We've added some lights to the Crypto Warehouse sign, and we've put our Christmas tree, and there's a very special present under that tree. Who knows what's inside it? And of course, we've carried across the decorations to our main stream, and this is what we are dealing with. Now, believe it or not, Bitcoin is up 1% in the last 24 hours. We're going to talk a little bit about the unemployment in a minute, but Bitcoin is at 87.2. Ethereum is down 11% in a week. It's at 2,850. I only said on Monday, I think, I can't believe how well Ethereum is doing, holding at 31.50. It's no longer at 31.50. BNB is still pretty up from where it was. We're still a 4x up, really, over the last 12 to 18 months. That's done incredibly well. XRP at 186. My. Solana at 123. Cardano at 36 cents. Chainlink at 12.26. What we might do in one of our streams coming up is we might have a look at how low we think things can go. When myself and the Oracle do some of our Christmas streams, maybe Christmas Eve, maybe New Year's Eve, we'll have a look at what we think is going to happen next year. But I don't think it's over in terms of the trend. I think the trend is still down. But as I've said on a couple of OG videos, and I think I might have said on Monday, I do think we're going to get a relief rally. I don't think that $90,000 was the end, okay? Now, there is a lot more liquidity sitting at 80 to 82,000, and we might go there, okay? But we're also, I think, going to get a little bit of a relief before we keep going down. And again, as I said on Monday, Kevin is going to become the new chairman of the Fed, and that isn't until May. So do I think we're going to see a lot between now and May? No. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on when I go through the unemployment data. What's up then? Midnight has had a pretty decent bounce. That's on the news about it being used for medical records. Canton is up. Uniswap is up. Zcash is up a little bit, but Zcash is below $400. I still think that's going below $400. Losers, and there are a lot. Hype is down 10. Aster, Stark, Immutable, Pump. They're all getting wrecked. Everything is getting wrecked right now. And there is no sugarcoating it. This is not a Santa rally of anything. This is a Santa depression. But anyway, let's get in with the X-Files. As I said, I want to try and get to the end of the show because we've got a very special quiz night coming up on not on Wednesday, on Friday. So tomorrow night we've got a very special quiz that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But I just want you to admire the beauty of the world. Let's start with something positive today before we go through all the negative stuff. Go out and touch grass does not physically mean go and find a park and rub some green stuff. It means go and get some fresh air, go for a walk. Obviously, I had my eye operation last week, and one of the things that's part of that is going for a walk because it helps circulate the blood flow. And that doesn't just apply to me, that can apply to everybody. If you're at home 6, 8, 12 hours a day watching the charts and it's not too rainy or too sunny outside, go for a walk. Clears the mind, okay? It's the best thing you can do. Back in the Victorian times, it's all people had to do. Anyway, let's move on. This is what we're going to be covering today, as I've just covered. But I've made a very special jingle for you. Jingle bells, crypto smells, profits ran away. Oh, what fun it is to ride Bitcoin to 60k. Come on. Who else will write you a crypto-related jingle like that? Nobody. That's what I'll tell you. Nobody. So this is what we're going to cover, as I've just said. And let's get on with this because there's a lot to get through. And of course, we don't want to take our time. We know the attention span of the youngsters these days is very, very short. Trump, I'm open to pardoning the samurai Bitcoin CEO. The DOJ said his privacy software helped launder millions. Bitcoiners say it's a test of whether code itself can be criminalized. The question has become a lightning rod between regulators and crypto advocates who say privacy isn't a crime. I've heard about it. I'll look at it. Let's take a look again. Now, I have made my opinion very, very clear on this, and that is I do not believe there is any place in society for software that allows for the perversion of justice. Okay? Now, do I believe that a software engineer should go to prison for writing software? No, I don't. However, there are, of course, lines in the sand because North Korea does nothing but write very, very bad software. So it's all well and good screaming freedom, but nobody is free. You are free within the confines of the society you live in. And I don't believe that if we're ever going to see mass adoption, we can have 100% privacy. Much as we'd love it, it's an idealism. The same way as socialism is an idealism. They're idealisms. They're never going to happen the way people want them to happen, and that's the problem. Now, one thing for people on the Binance Smart Chain and on the Kronos chain, we interviewed Ben from Kronos Army. The interview's down there. We interviewed him for In the Trenches a few weeks ago, and they have got a zombie soldier mint. Now, of course, we've gone and minted a couple, and these are the mints that we've got. Now, tell me that that doesn't look like a zombified Brogan, and then tell me that doesn't look like a zombified me. Now, these are completely random, by the way. I went over there and I minted them for $6, whatever they were, and lo and behold, they look like me and the Oracle. Don't ask me why. Now, the game itself is on two chains. It's on Binance Smart Chain and it's on the Kronos chain. And I believe you're going to be able to play on the Binance Smart Chain soon, but not this second. So this is something, if you're on Binance, if you're on the Binance Smart Chain, you might want to take a look at that. And I think, I mean, I'm not one for toy soldiers. I played with toy soldiers 40 years ago, but they look cool. And I wanted to get some avatars for myself and the boy. Now, celebrate the season with Merry Binance. Unlock exciting rewards and boosted earnings across multiple earn products. Again, some of these things I'm not going to go into too much depth about, but just to say, if you do take part in Binance Earn over Christmas, there are $600,000 worth of rewards being paid out to you. So make sure to go and check that out. And then the final X file, and this is the big one really, which is why I've left it till last. The unemployment came in at 4.6%. True unemployment, according to the experts or possible experts, they claim it's coming in at 8.7%. Now, again, governments will massage figures to make them look how they want to look. I'm fully aware of that. And there's a lot of talk at the minute, by the way, about Powell not cutting rates fast enough. And the thing is, I talked about this at the start of the year, and I talked about this in summer. And the problem is that when you talk about some of these things, they haven't come to pass. So me talking about the fact that Powell hasn't cut rates fast enough isn't me siding with Trump, because I don't think we should have 1% interest rates. It's me going off historically what happens with the Fed. The Fed puts rates up too quickly and historically has cut rates too slowly. So this isn't me trying to be some kind of economic expert. This is me looking at the historical way that the Fed works when it comes to increasing and cutting interest rates. And I have said all year that they have bottled it. And they bottled it because of Trump's tariffs. And now we have economists saying, oh, look, the economy hasn't done what we said it was going to do. And now we're starting to see the economy really, really strain. Okay? And it's not just America, by the way. The UK is the same. You put minimum wage up in the UK, and guess what? 18 to 24-year-olds can't get a job. Because as a business owner and somebody who's run a business for 25 years, if I've got the choice of employing a 25 to 30-year-old with maybe 5 or 6 years experience, or employing an 18-year-old, and they're both going to get paid roughly the same amount of money, guess what? The 18-year-old doesn't get a job. So minimum wage might sound great because you give kids a starting chance in life, but they're not going to get a job because you've introduced such a high living wage. Conversely, when you have an economy with no liquidity in it and the cost of borrowing is so high, what you have is companies that will not expand. So if there's no money in the economy will not expand. And if the economy doesn't expand because interest rates are so high and because there's no money coming in because we've had quantitative tightening, then you end up with not only high unemployment, but lower job openings. And yes, we had 30 or 40,000 job openings. Great. But you're seeing the real impact of high interest rates for too far and too long. And the thing is, yes, we can go back 30 years to where interest rates were 8 or 9%. We weren't a credit-based system as much back then as we are now. Everybody's got used to 1%. Everybody's got used to 1.5%. Nobody's used to 4.5%. And that's the problem. You constrain the economy too much. And in my opinion, and now, thankfully, in the opinion of all of these so-called experts who are more expert than me, they're now telling you the same thing. And that is, Powell has to cut. But guess what? He won't cut. He's going to leave it. He's going to leave it until the next guy comes in, which is going to be what? It's going to be May. It's going to be May. Isn't that a Britney Spears song? Anyway, the point of the matter is, we might see 0.25% here or there, but we're not going to see anything dramatic until May. We are going to see more money come into the economy. That is a fact. And yes, I don't believe that the path of Bitcoin is tied solely to the money supply. But I do believe if you haven't got money in the economy, if you haven't got money swirling around, and you can listen to Raoul Pal talking about $10 trillion coming into the economy and all this kind of stuff, because he's a big one for the money supply, I kind of agree. The government shutdown, October the 10th, the quantitative tightening, all of those things have stalled out the bull run. And that's the end of it. There's no way we can talk about it anymore. But talking about a bottom right now, I also think is very dangerous. Because I do think we're going to get a relief rally. I have said we're going to get a relief rally, probably to somewhere near the bull market support band, which is 103 now, 107,000. But it doesn't mean we can't go lower to then get the relief rally. Because if we've got all the liquidity at 82,000, why are we not going there? Guess what? Yesterday, all the liquidity was at 90,000. All the shorts got taken out, and then all the longs got taken out. And we got the middle finger, did we not? Well, I'll do it that way. We got the middle finger to crypto yesterday. Now, one analyst isn't quite ready to call a bottom, but says Bitcoin is surely in an oversold condition. The majority of time that Bitcoin goes down, it's pretty much in an oversold territory. The same way you get overbought territory in a bull run. And, you know, you always look at the Fear and Greed Index, the RSI. RSI across the board is oversold. You can look at any coin and it's oversold. But guess what? That doesn't mean it doesn't still have to come down maybe a little bit more. And I have been calling for this since it came back. I think we're going to see more blood before we see some rosy sunrises. So the early rally on Wednesday is a faint memory as the prices return to weak lows. Precious metals continue to get bid, with silver rushing to yet another record and gold closing in an all-time high. I should just change this channel to a commodities channel, really. One analyst cautioned against reading too much into the current Bitcoin price action due to year-end positioning and tax considerations. Everything goes wrong at the end of the year. We have no liquidity. We have no trading volume. We have no analysts and traders because they've all gone off to the Hamptons. This is now, as I said on Monday, it's just a flat lake. There's no breeze. The boat is just going to float, and it might float for a month or 3 or 6. And we're not going to see anything, maybe sideways and down. And I know people are calling for something to happen. Maybe Trump will do something, whatever it might be. That could be the relief rally. But if not, we are dead in the water right now. So we are in the bar. We've had about 16 Bart Simpson patterns in the last probably 3 months. And again, we've had another one. The resulting shape on the chart ends up looking similar to the head of the famous cartoon character. The crypto market again appears to be stuck at the troublesome scenario of not being at all correlated with stocks when they're headed higher, but having a one-to-one correlation with stocks when things turn south. Again, if we want to be honest and say, if the American economy is not in a good shape, which based on a lot of the figures that are coming out, it's not, then Bitcoin is the minor bird. If you're going to sell off your assets in a period of contraction, which assets are you going to sell off first? You're going to sell off the most risky assets. Is Bitcoin more risky than the stock market? Yes, of course it is. Is Bitcoin more risky than gold? Of course it is. So which one falls first? Bitcoin. But guess what? The big six don't look too healthy. Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, they're not looking too good right now. So we might see more downside action if the stock market starts to turn down as well. And believe you me, this is not the end. As I've been saying, we have the midterms next October. Donald Trump is going to get his own man in the Fed in May. And then all hell will break loose. He's giving money to the vets. He's giving money to people. He's going to throw money everywhere. He's become Oprah Winfrey with a better wig. So let's not worry too much about the $10,000 and $20,000 predictions for Bitcoin. That's not going to happen. But let's think about the fact that if we do get a relief rally, that will give us some benefit towards the end of the year, maybe going into January, and then we might still sidle down for the next 4 months into May. May could be the bottom, and then we start to work up towards the midterms, and then when the midterms are over, historically, I think 74, 80% of the time, something like that, markets go up after the midterm because they've got surety in the fact that we know where we are with 2 years to go. So this is, I think, probably more downward action for a little bit. Again, we're a week before Christmas. There's nothing. This, obviously, I'm going to the Christmas party today, but this is probably the Christmas party across the world. And then after that, next week, we're going to be dead in the water. So I'm not expecting these massive pumps that everybody's talking about here. Bitcoin is likely to be stuck in the range between 86 and 92,000. If we are, I would be more than happy with that. I would take that. If we go into February the 1st at 89,000, I would snap your hand off. I would be delighted with that price in February. If we can hold 86, 85, around that figure, fine. But if we've got liquidity at 80 to 82,000, don't expect us to not wick down there and come back up. If you want to buy more Bitcoin, maybe put a bid at 80,500. Who knows? Anyway, so do I think the bottom is in? No, I don't think the bottom is in, but I don't think that it's outside of the realms of possibility that we do get a relief rally. And that relief rally could come after we hit 80, 82,000. So it can happen before, it can happen after, but I think we get some relief in the market. And even if it's a $15,000 move, it's not a massive move as far as Bitcoin is concerned. Now, the fly in the ointment, which I keep talking about, are treasury firms. KB has become so bullish. Good morning, Kishan. I've just wished you a happy birthday at the start of the stream. I hope you are well. Manjeet, good morning. Tariq, I hope you are well. I would love to see that before Christmas. If that's the relief rally, I'll take it. I will take the relief rally before Christmas. But what's going to push us up? I tell you what could push us up today is it's the CPI data, isn't it, today? The CPI data comes out at 3 or 4 o'clock. If that is really good, then that can pump us up. But I'm just expecting down and to the side. I mean, Ethereum gets back above $3,000. Bitcoin gets back above $90,000. I'm happy. XRP back above $2. We'll see. Now then, this is the fly in the ointment. Saylor hints at potential Morgan Stanley partnership amid delisting fiasco. Saylor's new ex-post might hint at something amid the MSCI fiasco. What is this fiasco? This is basically people saying that Strategy isn't a real company. It's a proxy firm for buying Bitcoin, and as such, it should be taken out of the top 100. And there's arguments for, there's arguments against. We've covered that before. On December the 17th, Saylor posted an X image of himself alongside Strategy CEO Phong Le, standing in front of what appears to be a Morgan Stanley office. Guess the bank, he wrote. Well, hang on. In front of what appeared to be, I mean, it's pretty much in front of a Morgan Stanley logo. Okay, who wrote this? Pooja, do better. Guess the bank. The post surfaced as Saylor's Bitcoin-heavy company found itself in the spotlight amid growing concerns about potential index exclusions. Why is that important? If you are in an index, there are funds that buy all of the assets within 100. So you might see a S&P 100, a FTSE 100 index tracker, and they will buy and hold the aggregate of those hundreds. So they might have 8% in the very top one and then 0.3% in the bottom one. The reason they do that is they're an index tracker, so they track the 100 assets within the top 100. Now, if Saylor's strategy is within those 100, then passively 0.2, 0.1, 0.3% of all of that money in those funds will go into Saylor's stock. That's why it's important to be in them. You see companies joining the FTSE 100 and then suddenly they spike. We saw it many, many years ago with Scottish Mutual. I held it for a while. It's a tech stock a tech stock fund. They went into the top 100 and then they absolutely shot up. So it's like passive price support, passive stock purchasing. Now, if they get delisted, that will depress the price of Strategy's stock. That's why it's so important that he's dealing on it. So they began as a company in 1989, pivoted to Bitcoin in 2020. They now hold $60 billion worth of Bitcoin. However, Bitcoin went from 126 to 90. We're now at 86, 87, which has caused a problem, but not for this man. This man doesn't care. This man has orange balls of steel. That's all I'm going to say about him, because he is elbow deep in Bitcoin, okay? Now, he's likely to lose his arm, but he's not going to pull out without a fight. So JP Morgan Chase warned this very model could lead to the exclusion, including the MSCI USA. And again, why is that one important in particular? Because there's an MSCI World, there is an MSCI US, there is an MSCI UK, and they are some of the very, very biggest funds. So the MSCI World and US, they normally grow at 4 to 8% a year, so it's a really safe way to get an income. And MSCI has confirmed it's reviewing whether to exclude public companies where balance sheets allocate more than 50% to digital assets. I don't think they can win on those grounds. I think they should expand that to 50% of assets held in maybe commodities, digital assets, and other things, maybe gold as well, which is a commodity, I know. But the reason is this looks like it's targeting crypto in particular, and I don't think they would win in a court if they thought about doing that. So Strategy recently retained its position, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this. By maintaining cash reserves or continuing to accumulate Bitcoin, Strategy is insulating itself from short-term volatility while pursuing its long-term ambition of becoming a leading issuer of what he calls digital credit. And again, we've covered this before, but just as a reminder, Michael Saylor's play is not to buy all the Bitcoin. And if you don't know what Michael Saylor is trying to do, you need to go and read about it. because it's really quite important. He is going to create what he calls himself a digital hotel. And he's going to become the liquidity provider for blue chips and everybody else. And you, at some point in the future, might be able to buy a room, not rent a room, but buy a room in that hotel. And your 1 Bitcoin becomes one of those rooms. And then large financial institutions will then rent your room off you and then pay you a return. That's his long-term goal. Build a digital hotel on top of the digital land that he owns, and then use that as a kind of liquidity provider for nation states, for companies. That's his long-term play. It is not me go buy Bitcoin, okay? Me buy Bitcoin on Sunday. That's not his play. He is building the position to have enough liquidity for all of these financial institutions to get involved. That's his play, and you need to go and read about it, because nobody really pays any attention to it, and I don't hear anybody talk about this, and I don't understand why. It's like you could say the same thing about Tom Lee. Why is Tom Lee buying so much Ethereum? Why do people buy that asset? Do they buy it solely on the belief that that is going to become an asset of higher value? Because ask yourself the question of Tom Lee. What happens when he owns 1 million Ethereum, for example? What happens to his stock? The shareholders, do they want him to start selling the Ethereum? How does he derive value from holding all of that Ethereum? How does Saylor derive value from holding all of that Bitcoin? They are the questions you need to ask yourself. And then when you realize what's about to happen, you go and buy more Bitcoin. That's the play. Now, Ethereum protocol needs to be simpler. Buterin says, I've called this KISS ETH. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay? Now, there are many people out there and many white papers out there that I've read that are simply word porn. Okay? Nerd porn, whatever you want to describe it as. And they try and sound so big and clever, and they talk about fungible and immutable, and they talk about all these big fancy words because they want to make themselves sound clever, and then someone gives them a mic and puts them on a stage and they sound really clever, and everyone goes, oh, you're really, really clever, okay? Now, that's great for the 0.1% or the 0.001% of people out there. It's not very good for retail, is it? So retail needs to understand what you're doing. And I've seen a hell of a lot of hate against Solana. Solana has killed retail. Solana has done this, and Solana and Pump.fun have done these things. Okay, retail gets Solana more than they get any other chain. Retail gets the mobile phone on Solana. Retail gets the soft toys. Retail gets the DeFi. Retail gets how cheap it is to use Solana. And everyone's looking at the meme coins, and everyone's not looking at the fact that Solana is building the biggest, fastest, quickest, cheapest decentralized stock exchange, maybe not decentralized, but blockchain-based stock exchange in the world. No one's looking at that apart from the people in Solana, because everyone's going, you bad, you do meme coins, okay? Ethereum's strength is in being Ethereum and having the history of being Ethereum. I don't believe it needs to be simpler. Okay, I disagree with this, believe it or not. I think Solana should be, I think you should be able to sit down with your mum, your relative, your wife or your husband or boyfriend or girlfriend who don't know anything about crypto. You should be able to sit down with them and give them a mobile phone and point them at Jupiter, or point them at Camino Finance, or point them at Magic Eden and say, go and buy $50 of Solana. Go and buy an ETF. Go and buy an NFT. That's the acid test. Now, I can guarantee you right now, it is a hell of a lot easier to do all of those things on Solana. So who wins retail? Solana. What have we been saying for a year on here? Solana is retail. Ethereum is blue chip institutions. So does it need to be simpler? No. It needs to provide the structure for financial powerhouses to come onto the blockchain. That's its job. Cisco did not need to be simpler to build the internet. Retail don't care about Cisco or data centers or ISPs. They care that they press a button on their phone and Facebook works, or Instagram works, or TikTok works. Ethereum doesn't need to know any about that. And I don't believe anything that I don't believe this. He was on the right track. 6 months ago, he was absolutely on the right track. We need to sort this stuff out. This needs to get moving. We need to focus on privacy. We need to focus on this. He was right. Now, I disagree with him, which is it's my opinion. I'm allowed my opinion. You're also allowed your opinion. If you agree with Vitalik, fine. Vitalik is redefining what trustlessness means in the context of blockchain. The Ethereum co-founder claims that the protocol has to be simpler. An important and underrated form of trustlessness is increasing the number of people who can actually understand the whole protocol from top to bottom. They don't, though. Why are you trying to tell people? When you sit down and watch a movie, do you need to know what the sound engineer or the post editor has to do? No, you don't. You watch the movie. You want to see Optimus Prime blow up a Decepticon. You want to see a werewolf turn into a bat. You don't care how it happens. He's missing the point. Nobody cares how Ethereum works. Nobody. What are you doing? Don't trust, verify. I agree with that. You should trust the code instead of your bank or your government. I do agree with that. However, if the code is too complex for a simple human to understand, you're not actually verifying it. Instead, you're forced to trust a small handful of genius developers or auditors claim to understand it. Again, this is not his fight. This is not his fight. He needs to back away from this fight and go and do the important stuff that he was doing in the summer. Okay? Making it as simple as possible for developers, absolutely on board with that. Making it simple for retail, not on board with that. Because the people who build on top of Ethereum, that is their job. If you're going to see the likes of Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, BlackRock offer people these handheld Robin Hood style exchanges where they can dip in and out of stocks and shares 24/7, that's their job to make it simple. It's their job to do the KYC, the AML, the sort out of the wallets, that's their job. The same way it's Steam's job and it's Epic's job to sort out wallets to allow gamers to have NFTs. It is not the blockchain's responsibility to make it simple. You build the greatest foundation that enables everybody else to build on your platform. That's what you do, Vitalik. You don't make everything simple for everybody. You cannot be all things to all men. That's why you've partly ended up in this situation in the first place. You be all things to TradFi and then stop. And then let TradFi do everything else, because believe it or not, they are past masters at selling things to people. That's why they have so much money. Now, Solana's Jito Foundation returns as a US legal entity. It's like seeing all of the sparrows coming home at the end of winter to land in your trees. This is what you have when you see... good morning. I hope you are well. Let me just check the chat. I haven't checked the chat in a while, by the way. I do apologise. I've gone on my little rants today. Hello, Venki. I hope you are well. Good morning. Yo, good to know you are okay. Hello. I hope you are all good too. Remember, if you've got questions in chat, feel free to ask, because that is why we are here. We are here to answer your questions, not for me to rant every day about everything, okay? I don't want to be known as Mr. Ranty, okay? So the Jito Foundation announced it will bring back its headquarters to the USA after years of offshore operations, cited improved regulations and better crypto adoption as the main reasons. Now, that's not the reason. The reason is that if you want to get anywhere in America right now, you have to be in America. So this is a very nice way of them saying, we will not get very far unless we are in America, paying American tax dollars to Donald Trump's administration. We have to be in America. Trump wants to bring everybody back for tax, for jobs, for building the crypto industry in America. He is like a magnet bringing them all back in. Love him or hate him, he is bringing them all back in. Biden and his administration, Gensler and his ruling of the SEC pushed everybody away. You saw people going to Hong Kong, you saw people going to London, you saw people going to Paris and Berlin. And that all happened in the last 2 or 3 years. And now we've had a scene change in the last year, and they're all coming back into America. So don't believe this for 1 second. Oh, yeah, we're going back in because basically we only left because of the regulations. No, Trump said, you want to play my game, you play on my court. Simple. So one of the key validators on Solana will return to the US. It will rebuild as a US-based legal entity, boosting its reputation for mainstream Solana adoption. Again, if it wants to become an ETF or if it wants to have its tokens as part of an ETF, if it wants to list as an IPO, any of those things, they have to be based in America. So it makes perfect sense for it to happen. It's been hampered from building US operations by unclear rules, bans on banking, and refusals to engage due to risks of crypto. After over a year of in-the-trenches policy work from Jito and a decade of lobbying and education from industry allies, we are bringing core Jito Foundation operations back to the US. It's coming home, and we're throwing a party to celebrate. That is what we want to see. We want to see that. So congratulations and welcome back. Now, I am going to be quick, but I'm not going to be that quick. I want to make sure I get through some of these things. And by the way, we're going to see many, many more companies go back to America. We're going to see many companies in the UK. I think Bullish is based in the UK. Expect them to announce more developments in America. Obviously, we've seen some other exchanges, which I can't mention the names of, launch stock trading in the last 24 hours. We're going to talk about Binance in a minute, talking about their strategy in America. So it's all America focused because Trump is pushing for that. And again, if you are the leader of your country, you are going to want these people to build in your country because it's an emerging market. The same with AI. If you look at the three leading lights on AI in the world right now, you have the US, you have China, and believe it or not, you have the basket case UK. They're the three leaders in AI, which is the next generation. Okay? Crypto, at the minute, is Asia, definitely. America now, yes. Europe, not so much at the minute. UK, a little bit. Where else do we have it? Canada has been pretty off with it. So America's got a pretty open playing field because China and Russia are kind of standing to the side. So America can come in and basically take over, pretty much. Now, XRP's price is below $2. Is profit taking about to surge across the market? As conviction has weakened across holders, institutions, XRP's price structure begins to unwind. I'm just keeping an eye on my phone for 1 minute because I'm just making sure that my doorbell doesn't ring. In November, Ripple established strong bullish dominance. November 2024, Ripple established strong bullish dominance after XRP broke the $2 region. Did it in 2024? Must have done. Crikey, it's flown, hasn't it? It's been over $2 all that time, going as high as 368, and now we have gone to 183. Is it at today? The reasons, according to AMB Crypto, then, long-term holders, these people have been selling roughly $721.5 million in profits. At the time, XRP closed near $2.03, average cost base around 40 cents. Now, we bought our XRP at 30 cents, 40 cents, something like that. And I have said all along, I will sell in the $5 to $7 range. We didn't get to $5 to $7 range, so I haven't sold. Are we likely to go down over the course of next summer? Yep, probably. But I will have to hold it for the next cycle. That's just the way it is. But in a rally, hypothetically, if XRP did get the banking license, got a very good headwind of bullish news, and it starts to get up towards $2.50, $2.75, would I blame you for selling your XRP? Absolutely not. It's your decision. But I don't think we're going to go to $5 to $7. But I don't know whether we're just going to go straight to $1, $1.20. Not with the ETFs, not with the way things are moving. Things that you're not hearing in the news right now as well. The amount of Bitcoin and Ethereum on exchanges is falling to record lows, which I haven't talked about in a while, but they're falling to record lows. That also doesn't sit very well with the price of Bitcoin right now. XRP, we're talking about people selling, but we're also talking about people accumulating XRP at these prices as well. So you have two different narratives one set of data, it can be read in two different ways. There are people saying Bitcoin is at this price because every time we go up, the OGs sell. Fair enough. But there are always two sides to the story. And at the minute, all of the sides that I'm showing you are all pretty bearish because we are in a downturn. We've lost a third of the price of Bitcoin. We've lost a third of crypto in general. So all the news is going to be bearish, but there is some bullish news. However, just because there's bullish news, I'm not going to sit here and just say, by the way, guys, it's all beautiful in the garden. No, but it might not be as bad as it seems. So profit taking happens. If people think we're going to stall out until May, people are going to sell at these prices. It's simple as that. People are going to sell at $2. People are going to sell Cardano at 50, 60 cents. People are going to sell Hype at $25, $30. People are going to sell expecting it to go lower. Now, again, I think there might be a relief rally. I think if there is a relief rally, I think that would be the time to get out, if you want to get out. But I am probably going to sit on everything. Unless, as I said, something miraculous happens on any one of the coins that I hold, I'm probably going to have to hold for the next cycle, I think. So institutions, investors step back. The XRP ETFs recorded a sharp shift in flows. The volume fell from 246 million in November to just 8.54 million by the close of trading on the 16th of December. Bear in mind, it went live in November. It's always going to spike. The same thing happened with Bitcoin. Same thing happened with Ethereum. You see a spike. Okay? These things happen. So, where do I think XRP is going to go now? I will say the same thing for every coin that we cover on here. XRP, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, Chainlink, Hype. All of these coins are basically waiting for Bitcoin. And no matter how much we try and dress it up, there will be outliers. But on the whole, Bitcoin is the one that makes the move. If Bitcoin goes to 103,000, bottom of the bull market support band for a retest, goes above 100,000 at any point, goes towards 100,000 at any point, I do expect some of these altcoins to rally. We are oversold, and traditionally, when fear and greed is this low, you buy. But I would not be thinking about going all in on alts right now. If the bull run finished in October, we've got at least April, May before it starts to bottom out. And then maybe even it goes as far as October. But I think May, I think the catalyst in May will be the new chairman, the liquidity, things like that. So I think we're two out of 6 months through. Right, Hyperliquid are raising 1 billion in token supply, but the market is still punishing the wrong metric. Cantor Fitzgerald's report repositions Hyperliquid from a DeFi token to a cash flow focused exchange. Again, this is what we've probably tried to focus on here. I'd say the majority of the channel's life, we focus on cash flow, profits and revenue. And we always try and point out the fact that I'm still massively bullish on Jupiter, Aerodrome, still massively bullish on Camino Finance. They make money, and that's what you go for. That's why I have got a very, very small position in Asta and a very, very small position in Pump.fun, because they make money, and they do make money. And that's a key in this market, is what's going to survive the next 12 to 18 months. Not everything is going to survive. More gaming companies are going to go bust. Probably more metaverse projects are going to go bust. Some of Celestia, how is Celestia ever going to come back from where it's gone? That could likely go bust. Sonic seems to have gone quiet after what looked like an absolute beast resurrection. It's all gone quiet. Now, maybe they're building the next iteration, who knows? But some exchanges, some blockchains, some gaming firms, and some metaverse projects are going to go bust in the next 12 months. They were expecting higher. They didn't get it. Their cash flow forecast is not going to look good. They're selling tokens to keep themselves going, and those tokens are going down and down and down. And this is where you start to see the capitulation and the crash of some of these tokens. And again, I don't think we've really gone and talked about many gaming or metaverse projects. Haven't really liked the majority of them, to be honest. But cash flow focused, that's a very American term for companies that have profit and turnover. So, Hyperliquid has burnt 1 billion tokens. It could have burnt this 1 billion tokens 6 months ago and it would have ripped the price. Nothing it will do now is going to help. The same way as Polygon. Polygon did all of its bullish news at the pits of the bear market. Nothing was going to rip the price up then. It was going to rip it up over the last 12 months and nothing happened. So during this period, the platform's trading volumes have stalled as new platforms have surged. It doesn't matter if they've stalled, they're still making a lot of money. So Cantor Fitzgerald has stepped in with a 62-page initiation report that treats Hype less as a reflexive DeFi token and as more as an exchange with cash flows, as it should be, in my opinion. Together, the defense and the burn sketch out a simple argument. Hyperliquid is not losing its core franchise. Its token is structurally mispriced, and the market is staring at the wrong metrics. I do agree with the majority of this. I don't hold any Hype, and I'm not saying I missed it, but I missed it. But I missed it from a lot further back than when it had already hit $25 and $30. Getting into Hype at $10 and $15 was the price to get in at. Not when it started to appear in the top 20, top 30. The same pretty much can be said of Dash. If you really love security tokens, you should have bought it years ago. I don't believe in that narrative. I don't believe it's going to go to $1,000. I think it's going to stall out and come crashing down to earth. I think Hype has more longevity than a lot of other projects out there. The same with Aster, which is brand new, of course. I think they've got longevity, and of course, you will see more players come to the market. You will see more competition. And in an expanding market, that doesn't mean the end of Hype. It doesn't mean the end of Aster. I said to you guys, maybe 6 to 12 months ago, the market is easily big enough to have Aster and have Hype and have 4 or 5 other perps, dexes, whatever you want to call them. The market is big enough for that. On different platforms, of course. You've got BSC, you've got Solana, different places. The same as you can look at Polymarket. There's now maybe 200 different predictions markets. It might not support 200 different predictions markets, but it will certainly support 2 or 3 per chain. So don't think there has to be one winner. There is never one winner in crypto. There are always multiple winners, multiple blockchains, multiple projects. So I am on board with this. Aster, Lighter is the new one that I haven't talked about because it's fairly brand new. Lighter's volume flipped that of Aster or Hype 2 days ago. But again, you could be looking at wash trading to generate volume to then get the Lighter tokens. Who knows? But anyway, for me, I think Hype is a good choice. And if Hype goes down to $8 and $10 in the bear market in June, in July, I would certainly be looking at Hype at those prices. Not now. You're catching a falling knife right now. If you're buying too much, if you're dollar cost averaging into your favorite projects, by all means, keep doing it. Keep buying your Bitcoin. If you love Ethereum and Solana, for example, keep dollar cost averaging into Ethereum and Solana. You'll follow the price down and then you'll follow it back up. That's the way to look at it. Instead of thinking, oh, I can't believe I bought Solana for $140 and it's $130 and I'm buying it today, and then it's $120. I can't believe I'm buying it at $120 when it was $140. Think of it the other way. Your average price, if you're buying Solana over the next 6 months, your average price for Solana might be $80 to $100. Then if we do see the $300, $400, $500 Solana, you've made your money. Okay? Buying on the way down and buying on the way up of the very, very high conviction long-term plays, for me, is a way you win. And you might be brand new to crypto and say, you know what? I'm just going to buy Bitcoin. And I would wholeheartedly agree with you. There's only one cryptocurrency that I think you should own 100% of your portfolio in, and it's not financial advice. If you're only going to hold one thing for the next 5, 10, 20 years, it's Bitcoin. It's nothing else. And you dollar cost average in every week, every month. That is the play. The reason we look at other coins around Bitcoin is we want to look at coins that will outperform Bitcoin in the short term. So if you can get into Bitcoin at, let's say, $100,000 and it goes to $150,000, that's a 50% gain. If you get into that and it ends up at that, and you look at something like Solana, Solana could very well go from $125 to $250. There's a 100% gain. But long term, you want to be putting that into fiat and then into Bitcoin. They're your long-term plays. It's Bitcoin. It has to be. And your goal has to be 100th of a Bitcoin, 1/10 of a Bitcoin, and then the big one, become a whole coiner. That has to be your single biggest objective in life. And if you never get there, don't worry about it. If you end up owning a third, if you end up owning 0.1, that is going to make a big difference in your life. Now then, what do we have left? How long do we have left? Let me just check. We've got a few messages from Snack. Yeah, Link. Don't look at Link. Yeah, Link at $12 is a steal. Right, what time is it? It's 11:50. So we've got one more article. Then I want to talk about what we're going to do for the rest of December, because that's quite important. Right then. So Binance mulls new US strategy, CZ potentially reducing stake. Binance exited the US in 2019, and a separate company, Binance US, has been serving US customers since that time. The world's largest cryptocurrency exchange by trading volume is considering a reshuffle to strengthen its presence in the US market, a move that could see Binance co-founder CZ majority stake in the company reduced. His controlling stake in Binance has been a major hurdle to the company expanding to strategically critical US states, according to Bloomberg. People familiar with the matter, although no concrete plans have been announced, the conversation surrounding any potential action remains reportedly fluid. Now, as far as I remember, didn't World Liberty Finance buy 10% of Binance 6 months ago? Or it was somebody to do with Trump bought 10% of Binance, I think. Maybe it mentions it in here. The company is also considering partnerships with BlackRock, World Liberty Financial. Rumours of the return began to circulate in October after Trump pardoned CZ. We'll do everything we can to help America, the capital of crypto, and advance worldwide. Now, I do believe that this statement also coincided with a $1.5 billion donation in BNB from CZ to the Trump administration to help educate people in America on crypto. So there's a lot of involvement already between CZ, Binance, and the Trump administration. Reading between the lines, this is how I see this playing out. CZ reduces his stake. World Liberty Financial, under Trump's guidance, takes up that position in Binance. Binance moves to America. Binance IPOs in America. Trump and family make a fortune. Binance makes a fortune and is in America. CZ still holds a position on the board. Now, I don't know if any of that is going to come true, but that's how I would see it playing out. I think an IPO in America in the future for Binance is the play. And again, there's nothing in here about this, as far as I'm aware. I read this last night, but that's just how I see it. If you've got the Baldy Man IPOing, if you've got Circle IPOing, if you've got Tether IPOing, why wouldn't you have the biggest crypto exchange in the world IPOing in America? I think it will. I think it will. But in time, not now. Maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, I can see it happening. And it wouldn't be Binance US doing that, because I don't think it would have the traction. I think Trump wants to bring Binance into America, make Binance a powerhouse in America, and then IPO it. And then it's there. And it's locked. And all of the profits and everything else that come through are taxed in dollars in America. That's how I see it playing out. And you know what? Will it benefit Binance? Yes, it will. It will give that big stamp of approval that people seem to throw at Binance all the time. Now, Binance US does not feature crypto derivatives or access the global Binance exchange liquidity and operates as a separate crypto exchange. The US is considered a key market. We don't need to talk about that anymore. But you can just see the volume on Binance. It's absolutely massive. It's a third of the industry. A third of the entire industry goes through Binance. And yes, it used to be higher, of course. But as I was saying before about Hyperliquid, if you've got two people and you're big fish in a very small goldfish bowl, and then suddenly you get a pond with carp in it, and you put those goldfish in the carp pond, a apart from the fact that they might get eaten, but forget that bit, those goldfish will grow to the size of their pond, and they'll end up being bigger goldfish than they were in the tiny little goldfish bowl. And that's what happens with new markets. Crypto's bigger now than it was 7 or 8 years ago when Binance started. Binance owned so much more of the market, but we can go back before Binance. We can start to look at the exchange that nearly crashed crypto. So Binance isn't the first, but Binance was the best, Binance was the biggest, and now the market is expanding. You're getting new players coming in. That's just the way it works, unfortunately. Nobody's ever going to be allowed to have a 100% monopoly. In fact, I would go as far as to say a third to 40% of a market is quite big. Now, what went wrong in America was they allowed Meta, they allowed Amazon, they allowed other companies in America to have a monopoly. Why has Google got a monopoly? Google should not have been allowed to do what it did, and it was allowed. And now there is no competition, and that's really bad for the market. So for me, you need Binance, but it's like Batman and Robin, okay? For Binance to succeed, it needs, Batman and Robin, Batman and the Joker. For Batman to have a reason to be, it needs to have other players in the field to keep it competitive. Competition is good. When you remove competition, things become bad. And that's one of the major flaws with socialism. And by the way, capitalism sucks as well. I'm just saying, go to the extreme outliers and both fail. As far as I'm concerned, this is a great move for Binance. But we are going to run out of time, so I need to move over to this. Right, we've got a couple of minutes. So, actually, we don't. I need to go back to X for a minute to show you what we're going to be doing on Binance and YouTube tomorrow night. And that is this. Give me a second. Right. This is going to be tomorrow night. Now, we did this for the first time, I think, in November, and it was fun. Now, Wolfies are an NFT project, and we basically think it's a brilliant concept. And we're going to go through on Friday night. So this is on Friday. Okay, we're going to go through on Friday night why we like Wolfies. And they're not an NFT project like the ones that you normally see. They have what's called a treasury. They have a vault. And the trading of these Wolfies, it goes into a vault which then backs each of these Wolfies, and they can be burned. And I'm going to show you on a video us burning a Wolfie tomorrow night. So they're a little bit different to your average NFT project. And we're going to do that tomorrow night. And there's going to be a quiz. And the quiz is going to be on both platforms. We're going to have a Crypto Warehouse Wheel of Fortune for Binance, and we're going to have the top 3 for YouTube. So tomorrow night at 7 p.m, we will have that. And did I bring that up on the screen? I hope I did. Anyway, right. Now, I need to go because I have a Christmas party to go to. As you can see, I have my Christmas hat to go to my Christmas party. Wrong way. There we go. There we go. Christmas hat, Christmas party, starts at 12:30. I've got to get going. One last thing to remind you all. Happy birthday to Kishan and Bia. Happy birthday to Marco's daughter, and happy birthday to Kishan. You are both celebrated with the Crypto Warehouse family. Looks good on me. The only reason it looks good, Tariq, is it hides the bald. Actually, you know what? I have got a little bit of hair. Anyway, I'm going to be back tomorrow. So thank you, KB. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, everybody. I will see you all in the morning, because we don't drink at these Christmas parties. We have Christmas dinner and stuff, but we don't really drink. So I'll see you all in the morning, bright and breezy, and I will probably try and upload our agenda to X so you can see it. And I might put the agenda onto Binance as well, on Binance Square, so you can see it on there. But basically, we're going to try and do as many shows as we can over the Christmas period, because we appreciate some of you might not have friends and family nearby over Christmas. So we're going to be streaming Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We're going to be streaming New Year's Eve and New Year's Day as well in the mornings. So if you are on your own this Christmas, you're not, because you've got us. And with that, I will see you tomorrow morning. Take care.